All right, all right, all right. What an amazing, awesome, just day it has been today. Oh my gosh, it's just, the things that we get to do in life where we get to serve others in a way that we get to help them change their lives. And so today I did a, living trust for somebody that, had gone through this probate thing that was just a nightmare for their family. And then they were telling me, I don't want that to happen for my kids. And we were able to secure that and help somebody out with that, which is just so fun. So, when you get to do stuff that is making an impact and making a difference. As I get on today, I think about living boldly with purpose and, all the things that that entails and looking so forward to talking to Anouk today. But, as we were talking to each other in the green room, just realizing that there is, I have yet to find it, and maybe Anouk, this might be different for you. If I listen to people and I kind of feel where they're at and ask them questions, it's impossible not to connect, because there's got to be something in common that you have with another individual that's on this planet. I know they say with like Kevin Bacon or whatever, there's like 7 levels of separation before you can find something. I can't get to 7 levels. I asked you where you're from and you said Shreveport, and I used to coach an athlete that was from there. That was 1 degree of separation of, knowing about a little bit about the town she grew up and the life that she may have had growing up, in the time that she was there. But I don't know if it's possible to actually ask people a few questions, 3 or 4 questions, and not find something you have in common. I guess it would be possible if you never go anywhere and never talk to anybody. Even if you just say, I got a Facebook account, and they say, well, I got a Facebook account. That's something in common that you can build off of. And, what kind of videos do you like? Like I said, I don't know if it's even possible. And so just so excited to have this conversation today. We were talking, like I said, we were talking before and finding out that, a corporate career is something that not a lot of people get to have in the way that she's had it, to be in the C-suite position, as a minority woman in today's society, or, now it's not, I'm not even gonna say today, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it wasn't the same as it probably is today. And, even 30 or 40 years, my dad was, when I was growing up, was part of like one of the first affirmative action programs in the 70s. And he moved us out to the suburbs. And and I got to live in the suburbs and go to an all-white high school that had, 3,500 students and 35 people of color. And how it's grown and how it's changed. And then I got the opportunity because I'm from Denver, Colorado, and my mom's from California. So all of our trips when we were kids, if we went somewhere, was west, never going east. And we had one vacation. This is just crazy. I don't know why I tell the story. My dad decided he got 28 days off, and he put this masking tape on the dashboard, and it was like it had 1 through 28. And we decided we pulled this camper behind us, and we started out in Denver. And we had my grandparents in the back seat of this old Ford car, and we drove like through from Denver all the way east. And I remember we were in Niagara Falls. I can remember being in like New York City, pulling a camper behind us, scared that we're never going to be able to change. I remember going up to Maryland. I remember going to see Plymouth Rock. I think we drove down to, Virginia. So I can remember this trip, but I'm like, every day we had to drive like 8 hours or however many hours so we could make sure we saw the world, and then we, kind of like the National Lampoon's Vacation, where they got to the Grand Canyon and they looked over the side and they got back in the car and left. So I remember like a lot of the places that we saw was like that much time, like we were there for a couple seconds and then we had to leave because we had to get to the next thing. And that was my exposure to the East Coast. The reason I said it is because I took the last 3 years now, I've been able to take African-American men down to Alabama for a civil rights tour. And I had no idea the first time when I went to Alabama that I felt like all the stories that you hear and the movies that you see and the, are all based, if it's MLK that's in there, whoever is there, we're based there, but you have no idea. And then to go there and feel like we're still in 1970, and to feel like, we're at least where we were taken on the tour. And we started out in Birmingham, and then we went to Selma. We ended up at the Legacy Museum in Montgomery. Oh my gosh. And I've been to the African American Museum in DC, which is really cool. But you have like Beyonce playing music, and it's like a celebration of African American history, and it's so cool. Then you go to the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, and it's not like a celebration. It's like, ooh, we're getting serious here. This stuff really happened, and you really gets hit with the emotion and the things like that. And so for you to be able to hit the heights that you hit in our world today is just phenomenal. And then to say, okay, I've done corporate and now I'm ready to do my own is even more exciting and more fun to talk about. So I can't wait to have this conversation with you. Like all of our guests, I asked her to tell her story. It can start anywhere in her life that she wants it to. She can't get it wrong. I keep telling all my guests that. And so, because they laugh, because they're like, well, what if I, like, no, it's your story. So you tell it however you want. And if you want to take out parts and put in whatever you want. So I can't wait to hear your story. I'm going to give the floor to you. I've already talked too much today as we get going, but it's all you. Let's hear about who Anouk is.
I love your energy. It is so amazing. You're totally phenomenal. As introduced, my name is Anouk. Oftentimes, when people ask you your name is supposed to be something simple, but because my name is so unique, it becomes a very good conversational piece because most people get it wrong. They may say Anouk, enough, whatever, but it is. And I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, to high school sweethearts. So my parents, they lived actually right around the corner from each other, and they went to high school together, and they just fell in love, and they got married, and they had two beautiful kids. Well, one beautiful kid. I don't know about my brother being beautiful, but it was an interesting ride for them because they were so very young, and they really didn't really know who they were. So they really wasn't really ready to be parents. So it was a very challenging situation. So then my brother and I was reared by our grandparents, and grandmother was the force in the house.
Okay. Yes.
So very blessed that my grandmother, who only had a 3rd or 6th grade education, became my mom for all practical terms. And she's one of the wisest ladies that I've ever met. And so I learned early on that a lot of times that wisdom comes from experience. It doesn't always necessarily come from having the opportunity to have a school or classroom education. And so my grandmother, because she did not have that opportunity to go to school, she instilled that because I had opportunity, she wanted to make sure that I took full advantage of that opportunity. So I then, of course, went to college. I decided to go to college in New Orleans. And because I didn't have a lot of people as role models in my family that was about to travel the path or had traveled the path that I was about to travel, there was a person. I always feel like you find someone who you feel like doing it right, and you just need to do what they're doing or ask them questions, and then you can make your own modifications. But why try to start from scratch if you see that someone's doing it right? So I had a friend that went to high school with me, and he came from a very, what I consider, prominent family. It was probably like the Cosby family back in the day. One of those actually existed in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I was like, well, they seem to have gotten it right. So I want to do whatever they've done. So he said he was going to Dillard University. And I said, that sounds good. I think I'll go there too. So then I said, well, what are we majoring in? And so he decided to major in business administration. So I did the same. And I always had a big interest in business. I've always been very business minded, always was trying to figure out how to make money and how to multiply money.
Okay.
And so I get to Dillard University. I major in business management. That first summer, he comes to me like right before the end of the semester and says, well, we have good grades. We're smart, but everybody else here is smart as well. It's important that we differentiate ourselves. And so he said, we have to get an internship. He said, because the whole goal in coming to college is to prepare us for our next step. So based upon our major, our goal was to, get a job in corporate America. So he says, so we're going to have to stay here this summer and get an internship. So he got an internship with Inroads. And so I called my grandmother and says, I can't come home for the summer. I have to stay here to do an internship. She says, I don't know where they do that at, but you're coming home.
Okay.
So I have to come home. And I'm like, okay, she just doesn't understand. And so that whole summer, I was able to position her so that by the next summer, I would then be in a position where she would be open for me to do an internship, because I really wanted to make sure that I was setting myself up for success. So the next summer, she did understand it. And right before I looked at all these companies that were coming to interview for internships, and there was a company called Amoco, an oil and gas company, and they were looking for accounting majors, and all these other companies were looking for accounting majors. I didn't see very many companies looking for business administration majors. And I think it's because the thought is, if you're majoring in business administration, maybe your goal is to be an entrepreneur. So I changed my major to accounting to get an interview that same day. And I talked to the lady, Miss Green, in the placement office. And she says, well, they're only looking for juniors. You changed your major, but they're only looking for juniors. I said, understand that, but can you at least ask them if they will give me a mock interview, because I have no experience interviewing. So she says, I'll do that. And I went to Dillard University. I don't know if I said that, in New Orleans, historically black college. So everybody's always trying to help, because they understand the whole mission is to really nurture us so that we can be successful in our next. And so this lady named Veronica Brannon at the time was one of the recruiters for Amoco. So she agreed that they would give me a mock interview. So I was the last person to interview. And so when they told me that, I got so excited. Then I realized I have nothing to wear to this interview. I get back to the dorm and I'm having to, and I was a stick. I was so very skinny when I was in school. And so I'm in the dorm trying to ask people, does anyone have any business suits that I can borrow for this quick mock interview? So a friend named Kimyata Davis agreed that I could wear her black suit. And she was skinny, but not as skinny as I was. I actually borrowed her suit, which was still too big. And I had on some pantyhose. And I remember there was this big hole in the pantyhose. And I was so embarrassed on the interview, but I'm now at the interview table. And when I'm at the interview table, I was not nervous. This was my first interview, but I wasn't nervous because I had nothing to lose.
It was a mock interview, so you're just learning.
It's a mock interview, right? I'm a sophomore, they're looking for a junior. And so I had a really good time talking to Miss Brannon at the time about the question she asked, which was really about why did I major in accounting, which was one of the questions. And I couldn't tell her. I had just changed my major to accounting to just get this interview. So anyways, I think a couple of weeks later, we had like a common mailboxing system. So everybody was getting their mail, and people that had interviewed was getting rejection letters. And so I had not gotten anything, but I was not really expecting to get anything because it was just a mock interview. So 2 weeks had passed. I still didn't see anything. And then there was this one other lady named Evelyn. She was the only person that had interviewed besides myself who had not gotten any notification. And all the other notifications were rejection letters. So I'm thinking, okay, Evelyn definitely must have this one in the bag because she's a junior. I'm a sophomore, and mine was just a mock interview. Well, eventually I get an envelope, and it was a huge envelope. It wasn't the small letter size envelopes like everyone
Good.
else. And I open it up and it says that I am being offered an internship.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yes.
Yes. And I was like, this is unbelievable. But it was so exciting. So I got an internship my sophomore year. And so I started my corporate career actually while I was still in college as an intern. So I did an internship with Amoco in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So you had to go to Tulsa from, oh my gosh.
Yes, yes. And so I had never heard of Tulsa. I've heard of Oklahoma, of course. And I had heard of Oklahoma City, but not Tulsa. And so I did my first internship in Tulsa. And then at the end of that internship, they offered me another internship. So I had another intern my junior year. And at the end of my junior year internship, they offered me a full-time position. So I was super blessed and so excited. And I've always been one to really play by the rules. And so I got good grades. I did what I was supposed to do. And now I'm thinking, wow, I have a whole senior year left. I've already accomplished what I need to accomplish because I've already received a job offer. So maybe I can let my hair down just a little bit my senior year.
Well, let me just stop you real quick before you, because I got to know. You go to Tulsa as an internship in the summer. Where do you live? Where you're only going to live for a few months? Did they have like housing, or what did they have?
Yeah, very good question. So they had like a real structured internship program. So they
Okay.
had an internship committee and they provided a lot of services. So one of the services they provided was housing.
Okay.
So it was an apartment complex for all of the internships or interns to live in. And they also coordinated with us to have a roommate. So
Okay.
I had a roommate that they had helped me identify. And so the expenses weren't that much because I think they subsidized some of it. And they also
Gotcha.
guided us on some other key things that we needed to know to be successful. So yeah, that made it really easy for us.
Cool. That makes sense now, because I'm like, wow, twice, and you just got to go all the way to a whole nother state, and you're supposed to find a place to live. The second question that I have before you move into letting your hair down is, you started this and everything was with the guy that you were doing everything with. Did he just disappear after he did his internship the freshman year, and then you just lost him and he didn't, or what happened to him?
So very good question. So when I said we, so again, in high school, he and I had become best friends. And also best friends during college. And we're still in contact today. He has done absolutely fabulous in his career. He went down a different path. He went down a marketing path.
Okay.
And he started his internships with a program called Inroads.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had him do internships every year. So he started his freshman year. So he had
all four
belt. And so he received numerous offers and he started his corporate career at Procter & Gamble, as a matter of fact.
Oh, cool. All right. So now you can go back to letting your hair down because you've already got your job offer.
Yeah, so now it's senior year and I already have a job offer. I've done really good with my GPA is high. And so my senior year, I ended up getting an apartment with some friends. And so this was the first year that I did not have I didn't live on campus. And so now I have an apartment, I have a car, and I'm like, okay, so what do I do? And so I called my recruiter, Miss Veronica Brannon. I say in Cunningham sometimes because now her last name is Cunningham. So I reach out to her and I said, I just kind of want to make sure I understand the arrangements. So what are the criteria in order for me to secure this job opportunity upon graduation? She says, all you have to do is graduate. There is no GPA requirement. You've passed all of the requirements. You've done internships with us for 2 years. We know we want you. We just need to make sure you graduate and that you can pass a drug test. She said, that's all that's required.
Yeah.
And so what I did my senior year is I let my hair down. And when I say that, because I've never been someone wild and take risks, but I then decided that I really wanted to, go out and go to some parties and have some fun and build some relationships. So I then began to meet people at other campuses, because in New Orleans, there are a lot of other colleges and universities there. So I got a chance to really meet other people and bond with people in the city. And it just made it a more memorable time, because I think before that I was too afraid to go out of my comfort zone. And Dillon University is a very small college. And so at the time that I went there, there was actually one way to get in and one way to get out. And they really, really emphasized that we should stay on campus and not venture off in the city. So now that I'm, a senior and I'm living off campus, I then decide to meet people at other schools and really begin to know New Orleans. And so I experienced some of New Orleans for my first time after being there for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I started my corporate career in the oil and gas industry at Amoco in Tulsa. And so when I started, it was very easy because I had already met people, because I was coming there for 2 summers. I had an adopted family there now. And so that made the transition from college to the workplace easy. Well, things don't stay the same. So Amoco sold us to BP, who then sold us to PricewaterhouseCoopers, who sold us to IBM. So over my corporate experience, I have 32 years of corporate experience. And I started out as an intern who was just changing her major just to get a mock interview opportunity. And I am from a very small part of Shreveport, which might be considered a little hood. And so for me to be like a girl that's from the hood, that was raised by her grandmother, who only had a 3rd or 6th grade education, and I advanced all the way to vice president, senior partner of IBM. I was pretty excited about that, because I did not have anyone in my family that was a role model in that, because there was no one that had gone to the extent of corporate America. So there was a lot of key things that I had to learn, for myself, and to build a network to help me understand, key lessons and tips in order to make my journey achievable.
Wow. So cool. And as I'm thinking, through that to be, and I'm assuming, and I could be totally wrong, but as you're now, moving up in corporate, you're probably now making more money than most everybody at Shreveport that that you hung out with you. And then now you're having to figure out this whole world that is nothing like you're seeing. And for your identity, not only is your identity now have some funds in it, but your identity now, you're going to Tulsa. So Oklahoma and Louisiana are not the same. I've been to both, and they're not even close.
Yeah.
So now you have this culture shock, and you're in Oklahoma, and you are, presented as this person who has these abilities. What was that like for your identity to be all these people that probably at first people you were becoming who people wanted you to be, and then you had to find who you were. Am I correct? I mean, kind of walk me through that.
Definitely the best way to describe it. So because I got to corporate America, and I knew that I was always ambitious. And I always knew that if someone could show me what I needed to do, I could do it.
Gotcha.
And so I looked around the people in Tulsa that I wanted to be like, and I bonded with them. Like, one of them was the lady that recruited me, Miss Veronica Cunningham. And I began to just really ask questions of what I needed to do, because she had a corner office. What do I need to do to get this corner office?
Gotcha.
Early on in my life, because a lot of things just didn't make sense to me. So I always asked a lot of questions. So even though when I was little, I was shy, but I was not shy when it came to talking to my family. So I used to ask a lot of questions. So I think I was very analytical very early on. So then when I got to corporate, I began to just get out of my shell and ask all of these questions, because I wanted the roadmap, because I was really blessed and fortunate that my grandmother made a lot of sacrifices for me, but I began to think about there has to be a better way. And so now that I was exposed to people that looked like they were doing the thing, I began to say, oh, I just need to do what they do. And then I'll get that corner office. And so I remember another guy that was in corporate named John Banfield, and he told me, Anouk, make sure that you always work smarter and not harder. And then there was another guy named Melvin Thayard. He taught me of how to really build, relationships with corporate. So then I was trying to be like Veronica and John Banfield and Melvin Thayard. And so, being an imposter is kind of difficult.
Yes, it is. Because you're
You know,
always trying to, you don't believe you're good enough, but you're always trying to be good enough. And so it's super hard.
exactly. And then the thing that was for me is as I became who I am one that's not shy. I really like people. I have a bubbly personality. And so sometimes to people, I can be too much. And to me, sometimes I was like, hey, am I really enough? And so what I learned through all of this much later in life was it was okay for me to show up as myself because no one can be me better than me. And so I began to say, it's okay to have mentors, and you really need mentors, sponsors, coaches, because I don't believe anybody can get anywhere alone, but you can take their advice, you can take their tips, you can take their lessons, but you have to make it your own and you have to show up as your authentic self. And so that is the biggest lesson that I learned. And that when I learned that, I flew up the corporate ladder so fast.
That's so cool. And one of the things that I'm finding out, and you can maybe attest to this, and because I can tell you're kind of in this space, is a whole bunch of people. I'm an extrovert person, so you can tell I'm outgoing, full of energy, all this stuff. But what I find is some of the most successful people kind of were introverts, and they figured out how to show up as extroverts. Like they didn't get charged from being at the party and being there and being the life of the party. That didn't give them energy. They could go to the party and they could be there and they could interact and they could talk to people. But at some point, they like, I got to go home and I got to sit with the book or I got to sit with myself and I just need to just chill for a little bit till I get recharged. But I think there's a whole lot of time of reflection and everything else. And it sounds like in the beginning in this time, that's kind of where you were, is like, I don't want to be around everybody all the time. I want to learn from everybody. So I need to get there and get along with folks. And these relationships that you talked about, I call the big R, became the most important portion of what you did. It wasn't the stuff you were doing in the office every day that some people hide behind. It was, who do I need to know and how do I create a relationship with them so that they can help me down the road? Am I kind of right on some of that, or?
Exactly. And I always want to remind people that relationships are a two-way street. So even though I might have needed someone who had a corner office to help facilitate my career, there was things that I can bring to the table too, no matter where I sit at the table, because I had to realize that, hey, I bring light and value and possibilities in the room as well. And so one of my mentors back in the day, she was very good at coaching me on what I need to do in corporate, but she also wanted my advice on some things because she was like, oh my God, you get along with people so easily. Can you kind of help me? So I then began to understand that there was value in what I had to bring, even without having that much experience at the time in corporate. So that's why I say when people can really show up as their own authentic self, that in a relationship, there are things that you can bring to that table, no matter where you are in your career at any juncture in time. And just remember that, because people don't want to be giving all the time. You have to also be receiving, because it's that two-way street.
So cool. I love it. I'm almost finished with writing a book. It's called, it's going to be called, I think, because I might go through a couple title changes, but it's Relationship versus AI. And I'm really diving into this whole AI world and how afraid people are and about knowing, versus learning. And we're coming from this world where it meant everything to know everything, to memorize what you do on a test, and to memorize what you need to be. And somebody tells you exactly what you got to do, but it takes away the learning, because you could do something for 20 or 30 years repetitively, know exactly how to do it, and be successful 20 years ago. Today, you do something that happened for 10 years and the machine changes and you can't continue to do it. And it sounds like you figured out this learning thing way before AI ever showed up, way before, because you were always figuring out ways to learn. Is that kind of where?
Yes, and I don't know why this just popped into my head, but growing up, like I was born in this 1971 to be real exact and specific.
Okay.
That I remember that we used to have like all these encyclopedias.
Yes, the green one. The green one.
Yes. And so I remember when I needed to know something or I had an assignment at school, I had to go pull out all these big books to go through things. And now I tell my son, who's 24, life is so different because everything is right there at the tip of his fingers. And so, but I really do appreciate what we had to go through, because I think we really had the opportunity to learn, understand, and they may just be doing it and, just getting it to do what they need, but they don't really retain it. So I do think that we were more advantaged. And so what I've began to think about through life is that things are always going to change, and you have to really understand, what do you need to know to make sure you're adding value so that you can continue to transform, with the change, because you have to have that growth mindset. And so when you have that growth mindset, you want to say, no matter what room that I'm in, I'm adding value in some form or fashion without even knowing the topic. You have to go in there with that confidence, because you know that you have a database that's already inside of you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So cool. So you work in corporate America, you say, for 32 years, and you get to the highest of high that you probably were, unless somebody dies, you can't move up any further. And so, because you're probably around the same. So you decide, wait a minute, I've been doing this all of my life and I'm really good at it. Let me go try to do some of this stuff on my own. Maybe kind of talk about that transition in the mindset of, transitioning from corporate America to entrepreneurship, and then all the things that come with it. It's kind of like starting over, even though you have all these skills, but you haven't been doing it in this arena. You might have been doing it in the other arena. So kind of talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, very good question. So, and it may make even more sense too when you kind of think about how I began to talk about how I started my corporate career. Like I started in accounting and I changed my major just to get a mock interview. So I was in corporate because that was the thing to do. And then I began to figure out how to become, very successful. And while I was in corporate, there was times where I wondered, like, now, why am I here? How did I get here? And then I remember that there is a purpose in this space. And so my purpose is to serve people. And so I began to say, no matter what position I'm in, or no matter what company or what environment I'm in, I really want to make sure I stay within my purpose, which is to serve people. So one of the things that I did, which also differentiated me when I was in corporate, was I made sure I always put people first. So when I led large global teams, I made sure that I put the people first. No matter what the aggressive targets were, I put the people first, because when you put your people first, people will work so much harder for you. And so I began to figure out, how do I create the satisfaction, the fulfillment that I need in this environment? So I began to just serve. And, once I got to this vice president, senior partner appointment, I was excited about the compensation. I could not believe, like when I was looking at it, I was like, I can't believe this little skinny girl from the hood in Shreveport, Louisiana, is making this amount of money. This is exciting. And I was like, so being that my purpose is to serve, I wanted to figure out, how do I make sure I stay true in this season of my life? And so I then began to truly pray to God, because I have a very spiritual foundation and I don't want to do anything if God's not in it. So God began to talk to me, and it took me a little while to be obedient, but he was talking to me and was telling me that my time was up in corporate, that it was time to go do something different. So I retired from corporate IBM in August of 2023. I didn't retire to stop working. I just retired to stop doing that. And now be obedient of what God is calling me to do. So I've transitioned into this new phase, and I'm living this entrepreneur life, which is a totally different animal. But remember, I originally majored in business administration, so I should be prepared for it, right?
You should be, because that's what they thought. You're going to be an entrepreneur if you majored in it. So.
Yeah. And so what I'm finding in this entrepreneur life is I truly love the flexibility. Like, you can choose who you work with, you can choose the projects you take. Now, I'll be very honest, I do miss my compensation. I do miss it. And I am trusting God because I'm being obedient. And I believe that at some point within the next year or two, that I will actually double that compensation that I was making in corporate with the flexibility. But you do have to put your time up. You have to create credibility in this space. So what I've been trying to do is to take like all of the transferable skills that I learned in corporate and utilize that to still stay in my purpose, which is to serve people. So I'm doing that in a multitude of ways. And it's been a really good experience because I really like helping people. So sometimes I'll get distracted and start helping people solve their problems versus staying focused on mine. And I have to remember, okay, Anouk, if you don't do this, you're not going to get any income, right?
You don't eat.
Exactly. So I love serving people, but one of the things that I have to do better, and I'm still working through it, I haven't figured out the secret for me just yet, because sometimes, because I love people so very much, that I will go out of my way, because I'm like, God, you told me my goal and my purpose was to serve. And so what I'm trying to do in this season is to make sure that I'm seeking clarity. So as a matter of fact, September 1st, for 90 days, I'm going into a 90-day full reset so that I can make sure that I am focusing on what I need to be focusing on to make the impact that I'm supposed to be making to my family and to the community. I feel like the Bible says, whose much is given, much is required. And I feel like God has given me so much and he's been so kind. And I feel like there's so much more that I have to do in this season.
Oh my gosh, this is so neat. And to get to see your journey, I'm going to speak into, you're not going to double it. You're going to 10X what you were making before.
I receive
whatever that number is. I believe 1,000% you are going to hit it, because you have it right. And I love the fact that you're doing the reset. And, part of the entrepreneur space is, it's almost sometimes, I don't know if you've read the book, Who Not How yet, but it is an amazing book on finding the right people that can partner with you in order to move you forward. Kind of like you talked about in your early life, you had your guy that you did everything with, and now it's just finding the right people to connect with. And it is a little bit different, because where in the corporate world you have people who do different jobs, and then in the entrepreneur world you get to do all the jobs until you find the way to get somebody else to take on some of those responsibilities. One of the things that I love about, we've talked a lot about, the stuff that you did, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your out of work life, over the years, your faith. I can tell that's a huge part of who you are. Maybe talk a little bit about family, the things that you did, the things that energize you. I almost see that. I think you're now that extrovert type person who really gets energized by being around people, and not having to go sit down and read a book. Maybe, I could have been wrong in the first place, but just you watching you. But well, talk a little bit about that, your family and your out of work life that you've had.
Yeah. So in my family, I am the go-to person.
Okay.
And I love doing things for everybody in the family. And so my mom gets jealous at times when I go do something for one of her sisters, because she's like, okay, that could have been my time. But I really do love people, especially, my family and my friends. And I believe that it is so important that when God allows your path to cross, that you should add value in some form or fashion to everyone. And so at this stage in my life, I truly understand more of what's important. And so for me, being such a people's person, and I give so much to people, and I truly enjoy that, it really does weigh on me at times, because at night I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. But what I've learned is to make sure that I create discipline in my life. And so it is very important for the routine that I have in the mornings. So every morning that I wake up, I make sure that I spend time with prayer and meditation. And at the end of the night, I make sure that I think about, what am I grateful for? So I spend moments of, gratitude, and I spend some quiet moments. And I really do love reading, books as well. And so I just try to make sure I have a really, balanced life, and that I'm remembering that you have to make memories with the people that matter. And growing up with my grandmother, and so a lot of my aunts did so many things for me. And I recently had an aunt who passed away totally unexpectedly. And so it just reminded me that you just never know when it may be your last opportunity to interact with someone.
Yeah.
And so actually it was in May of 2024. And I started probably planning it in like October of the previous year, is that I felt like my family had not gotten together for an official family reunion. I think it had been like 20 years. And so even though I was super busy, I was like, somebody has to put this family reunion together. So I took it on myself to lead the family reunion so that we can make memories. And we did that in May of 2024. And one of my cousins says that we're going to do this every couple of years. He said, unfortunately, I feel like somebody's not going to be here for the next one. And we've had 2 family members to pass since that time. And so it just keeps reminding me the value of making sure that you're spending quality time with your family and friends and making those memories. And I love to travel, so I travel a lot as well. So I typically travel with friends. My family doesn't seem to like to travel as much, not my close family, but so I'm just trying to make sure that I remember that this life that God gave me, that it is mine to go create the life that I want, or I say co-create, because I can't do it without God. So just like I had goals in corporate America, I also create goals, for myself, to say, hey, if I want to go visit a certain place, like I have this whole thing where I want to make sure that I visit every state in the United States, at least one city in every state. And then of course I have places that I want to go out the country, and I'm just checking things, off the list as I go, as I'm trying to also balance, things in this new entrepreneur world. And right now, from an entrepreneur standpoint, I have my hands in so many different buckets that I am in September. I'll step back to assess what's working, what's not working, where I can make the biggest impact, and still staying, within my purpose.
Oh man, that is so cool. Talk to me a little bit about your health. How are you both mentally and physically? I know you're back in Louisiana now, and the food is really good, but I don't know if it's always really good for us.
Yes. So very good point. Yes. And it's interesting that you would say that, because one of the things that I am really married to is to make sure that I focus on my mind, my body, and my soul.
Okay.
And so in January, so my aunt that passed away, she passed away in December unexpectedly. I had already said that I wanted to be more committed to my health and my wellness journey. And I wanted to get into the gym. And I knew that I needed an accountability partner. So I said, okay, I'm going to get this fitness trainer. So in January, my mom and one of my other aunts, we actually started this whole journey with the fitness trainer. So
Okay.
I'm very committed. I eat really healthy. I actually don't eat, the only meat I eat is seafood.
Okay.
And I eat mostly fruits and vegetables. I don't drink sodas. I drink a lot of water. I spend a lot of time in the gym. Now, every now and then, just like this past weekend, my aunt had a cookout and she fried some fish. And so fried food is not something I try to do a lot of, but I ate fried fish this past weekend. And I also ate some cake. So every now and then I do splurge, but that's not something that I try to do often at all. And then I do try to get into the routine of doing some fasting. And so I've tried to really educate myself on a lot of ways to just, be healthy and not take any medicine and things like that.
So what do you do for when I think of like your mind and being healthy in your mind? A lot of it has to do with personal development and becoming that person that you want to be, so you can live out the life of your purpose. What are some of the things, and how much time are you spending? I know you said you get up every morning and you do your routine that includes your meditation and your prayer, and then at night. Are there other things that you do that make sure that you're keeping your mind sharp and your the development of who you're becoming?
Yes, yes, yes. Um,
Okay.
One is I do read books and
Okay.
I listen to podcasts, and I also have coaches.
Okay.
So I feel like it's still important to have those, relationships and learn, from others. I also am part of a lot of communities and networks. And the other thing that I would say that I really do to keep my mind sharp is that I have a 24-year-old son and a 2-year-old grandbaby. And my 24-year-old son, he keeps me balanced with kind of helping keep me hip, like,
There
certain
you
things,
go.
so I feel like it's really good to stay, balanced overall. And I also like to write. I've actually written, 2 books. And so all of those things I think keeps my mind, very sharp, and an opportunity to continuously grow. I've gotten a lot of, certifications. Like in October, I got certified to become a life insurance agent. I got that just for, the knowledge and if I can help someone. And then now I'm actually becoming a real estate investor. So I'm going through real estate, training, because I want to continuously increase my knowledge, whether or not it's something that I major or focus on. I just like to continuously learn. And I think that is so very important.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think sometimes we miss that part, that in order to become, you got to have to grow, and in to grow, it's you really have to work on you and who you are. I started a community that will be coming out this month called Becoming the Person University. Becoming the Person.com is where you go, but it's just it's going to be dedicated to helping people like yourself that are just, what do I need to do, and where do I find that place to go? What I'd really love to hear now, and because we're kind of getting towards the end of our show, and we haven't really talked about how it is that you are serving people, and what is it that you do that maybe we can help you out with, or how would people connect with you, or what do you want people to connect with you? What is it you do?
Yes. So again, I told you I'm doing a multitude of things, but it's all
Yeah.
under the umbrella of serving. So one of the key things is I've taken like all of the lessons and all of the experiences and my skills that I learned in corporate America to help other people. So one of my sweet spots was leadership. So I have an online course that teaches folks how to gain rapid growth without working all the long hours. And I've developed a methodology that's called the Thrive Method. And I have a book out with one of my, friends, Dina Bigham, and the book is called You're Working Too Hard. And it gives you various tips and secrets. I also do a lot of speaking engagements and workshops around leadership, because I want to take those experiences and to use my experiences to help others. So that's, one area. The other thing that I am working on is I wrote another book that was called 30 Days to Yes to Me. I really feel like there's so much negativity that really spreads and goes viral. So I really want to do my part in encouraging, motivating, inspiring, and empowering people. So I host a weekly radio show every Thursday mornings that is an inspirational radio show. I also get out and do motivational speeches. I'm doing some things. I have a nonprofit where I'm helping, children make the transition from high school to college and college to the workplace. I'm putting on a women's conference and some other, workshops to keep, really teach people, really key skills. So those are the big things that I'm, working on right now. And I have a website. My website is www.Anouk, which is ANOUK -mc.com. And on that website, there is like all the information about me, and it may lead you to other websites since I do have, several different things that's going on right now.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, people could come to you now on your, like the book that that helps people that they're working too hard. Is that mainly geared for people who are in corporate America that are, staying all night and, they're the first one to get there, the last one to leave? Or is that for your entrepreneur type person or everybody? How
does that everybody. It's typically for people that are either in leadership positions or people that's aspiring to be a leader. And it does not matter what industry you're in. So it does not have to just be for someone in corporate America. So the tips that Dina Bigham and I put into this book is something that will help you no matter what industry that you're in. And it will also help, people like, an entrepreneur, because you have to build, teams and you have goals and things like that. So those things are definitely transferable.
Gotcha. Are you writing another book right now? Are you in the midst of that, or?
Well, you know what? I am not writing another book just yet. I have an idea. My next book, which I probably won't focus on to next year, is going to be something that's going to really get more into some key experiences that I've had from a personal standpoint. I've had a lot of personal challenges. I've just went through a divorce. And so I call myself Anouk version 3.0 because, was married twice. And now I'm like this third time around. And so I just feel like there's so many lessons that I've learned from a personal standpoint, and I want to kind of put that together in a book, but that will be a focus for 2026.
Oh, cool. What's your favorite thing to talk about, whether you're doing speaking or you're training or you're helping people or serving people? What just gives you the most amount, like you go home and you're just like on top of the world because you got to participate in it? What do you love?
It's really inspiring people to tell my story and for them to see that if I can do it, so can they. And to really encourage people to just be you and live boldly and go out there and co-create the life that you want.
Oh my gosh. That is so cool. And you think about the purpose. Do you feel like you're living in purpose now, or you think you're just scratching the surface? Where are you? Yeah, I know you're doing your reset in September 1 and going through 90 days, but do you feel like you're doing everything that God put you on this earth to do?
Very good question. And I would say that I am definitely moving in the right direction.
Okay.
I would say that I'm probably only scratching the surface because I feel like there's so much more, or I can be doing it differently to make a bigger impact. And what you mentioned earlier too, is we talked about the importance of relationships. And I became very key on how to build those relationships in corporate. And so my opportunity now that I'm in the entrepreneur world is to make sure that I'm creating the right relationships, the right collaborations and partnerships. And I think that will help to propel me so that I can make that bigger impact to align with my purpose.
So cool. I think of when I think about living in purpose, and I just turned 60 in March, and I'm thinking of, I can't wait for the next 12 years to happen, because of all the things that I want to accomplish, because I kind of start now feeling like I'm truly doing what I was put on this earth to do. not in a way like I'm scratching the surface of what the potential is, because only God knows what that is, and only God can control that. All I can do is the activity, and then just leave it up to him to take over, and then see where he goes. But when you start seeing that vision of what's possible or what could happen, it just gets so exciting. And I see that for you, and I see that in your eyes and your countenance and the things that you're saying to me today. And it has been such a pleasure to hear your story and to hear where you're going. And I can't wait to follow it and to see where you're going and to get your books and to have you come speak at my stuff when I have stuff going on, and all those wonderful things. And so for those of you who are watching this, maybe this is your first episode you've ever watched. She sent you a link and said, watch me on here. I want you to know we have a lot of these podcasts. I've done over 400 in the last 3 years of just people just like Anouk who are making their lives happen, that are living boldly with purpose. I have one specifically for Black men, which is called the Journey to Freedom podcast, which is, I've told you about the men that I'm taking to Alabama every year. And we're going to go another trip here in January and just, hey, figure out this is where we came from. Now this is where we need to go. But I cannot wait to see where you go. Hit subscribe, notifications, all those things that we do here. I would listen to the radios. Is there a way to get to your radio show or nationally, or you have to be like where you live?
It's an international show. You can get it actually airs on Thursday mornings at www.gsslradio.com at 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And then it re-airs on Sunday at noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern at kjmoneytimeradio.net. And I also put all the replays on my YouTube channel, which my YouTube channel is just my name, Anouk Brumfield.
Well, this is what's cool, because if you're watching this today, because it's Wednesday today, and we're doing some of this live, you will be able to go there first thing in the morning. I'm going to go first thing in the morning at, I guess it'd be 7 a.m. for me because I'm on Mountain Time. But I will listen to your show in the morning, and I really can't wait to do that. Oh, man, it's just been a pleasure and a blessing. And I want to thank you so much for being on today and taking the time out of your day and your busy schedule and all the things you got going to spend it here with us. Is there any one or two last thoughts that you would love to give everybody before we end?
First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for having me. It has been a complete pleasure, and I wish you nothing but blessings on blessings on blessings. I just want people to know when they see me, they see that it's possible. And to just always, one of my favorite quotes growing up was, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll be among the stars. You guys, life is so short. We all have the same amount of time. Just go co-create the life that you want, and only compete with yourself. Don't compete with anybody else. Define your own definition of success and go out and create that success. Have joy, and just never remember that it's all about God, and keep God first. Like that scripture says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all will be added.
All these things will be added.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Go to the websites. We'll put up the links here below in the chat and whatever the comment section. So pin it there so you'll be able to see it. Again, thank you for being on. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next time. Don't forget, you're God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to, and do what he put you on this earth to do, because you'll be so blessed when you do. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.